When you're studying the career topic for the NCE, it can be very beneficial to understand the basis for the developmental career theories. My name is Joyce Elder. I'm one of the coaches under the direction of Dr. Pam Turner at Academic Coaching for World Changers. In this video, we'll be talking about Ginzberg, Axelrad, and Herma's theory on career choices. So let me just share my screen and we will get started. One of the things that I think is really interesting about theorists who end up becoming the basis for more theorists down the road is that they aren't necessarily psychologists at all. We saw that in family when Ludwig von Bertalanffy, who was a biologist, gave us the basis of general systems theory, from which other systems theories were generated pertaining to families. Now, with respect to career development theories, we got started with Ginzberg, who actually is an economist. He started because he earned a grant, and he used it in order to interview a small sample of upper middle class people who had a choice in the careers that they made. He was joined by a psychiatrist named Ginzberg, sociologist named Axelrad, and a psychologist named Herma. And together they came up with a theory on the lifespan of our career choices. Actually, it started out, though, that they focused on the age range between birth and 20 and really especially believed that the choice occurred between adolescence and early adulthood. So the three stages that they focused on were fantasy, tentative, and realistic. And after we cover those in greater detail, we'll look at some of the developments that happened as well. So we have the three stages of fantasy, tentative, and realistic. Fantasy occurs between the ages of birth to 11, tentative from 11 to 17, and realistic from 17 up to 20 plus. So one of the things that you'll want to be taking care with, is that you're watching the specifics of the age ranges. And you'll note that if you have a fact pattern with an 11-year-old, that could be either fantasy or tentative. And if you're given a fact pattern with a 17-year-old, it could be tentative or realistic. And so what you'd want to do at that point is be able to have a deep enough knowledge of each of these to where you can go beyond that age fact and also really hone in to be able to not just rule out, excuse me, to not just rule out your first two options, but also go on to ask that refining question that is going to help you choose the right answer. So with a little bit more detail so that you're able to do that, let's take a look at the fantasy stage. Fantasy stage is where we engage in some work-oriented play. When I was a young child, I had a friend who would come over, and at this stage, we were watching reruns of Emergency. And if you haven't had the opportunity to see that, that was a series that was starring two people who were the paramedics that were also on rescue missions as well. And so they would go out to fires or other accidents that had happened and help to rescue people, provide medical services, and get them off to the hospital. And so one of the things that I had at my house was a large jungle gym that was big and red and shaped like a house. And so we would pretend that that was the firehouse, and then we would get a call and we'd slide down the pole and go running out of the jungle gym to whatever emergency would have. Of course, we'd end up turning around and running back to it because now it was a house that was on fire. And so we would end up playing out that whole scenario. So that is work that is play oriented as we pretended to be paramedics. So then we move into the tentative stage, and this is from the age of 11 to 17. And this is where we're discussing things like our interests, capacity, values, and transitions. So interests are our attitudes, things that we like or dislike. Well, I used to, um, I really liked geometry, but in general, I'm not a big fan of math. But I am good at sciences. I really liked biology a lot. So I thought about becoming a nursing major. And well, that actually goes and also speaks to the values that I have of I really like to be able to help people. Um, and it's important that we are able to keep people safe as well. So you can hear some of the things that are important to a person who's saying that, of it being able to have that impact, helping people, and also the value of safety. Values are interesting because of the fact that they are context specific. So our values, um, we may have one set of values for careers, we may have another for relationships, and another for life overall. And so we do want to be listening for values that are career specific. One of the things that you might have seen in the Hellwig book for when you're studying for the NCE is the word transition. It's like, well, what is that? That is where you'll hear people talking about availability, benefits, and demands. So that may sound something along the lines of discussion about what the outlook is over long term for this particular career. Is it something that is is there availability or the possibility of getting hired in your area? What are the demands? How much school is required? What are the benefits? How much pay is involved? What can you expect overall from this particular career choice? Then we move into an even higher level of organization to the realistic, and this is from 17 and up. So we're looking at three parts of exploration, crystallization, and specification. So in each stage, each of these, we're getting more and more refined in our choice. Starting with exploration, we may be looking at colleges and programs. And then we might go into crystallization, and maybe we decide to choose a general major such as undeclared health. And if we're not going to go into down a college path, then maybe, or at least we're not at that time, although with Ginzberg et al. During the time frame that they were creating this theory, people would have been going directly into college after high school. For those who are not, they would be committing to an alternative. So maybe they are going to work in the family business, maybe they are going to enlist in one of the armed forces, or maybe they are going to trade school or get into an apprenticeship in order to do another type of job as well. And then what happens is we refine even further. So it was undeclared health for a major. Maybe now we're getting even more specific and refined and deciding on nursing or physical therapy, occupational therapy, or nuclear med or biochem, something along those lines that indicates an even more specific focus or choice. And it may very well be that now you're going to attend grad school as well. So you can hear the different levels of organization that are happening. So if you had a fact scenario with a 17-year-old and they're talking about their interests and what some of the things are that what some of their values are, what they're good at, you can pretty safely say that you're looking at someone who is in the tentative stage. But if you have given a 17-year-old who has done an internship and they are making their career choices and they are starting down the path of exploration, crystallization, and specification, then you can safely say that they are in the realistic stage. So what happened after they got through these three stages and came up with this theory is that originally it was limited to adolescence and early adulthood in terms of the choices that were made. Part of the reason for that is that fantasy stage, yeah, they're playing, but they're not really engaging much in their choices in most cases. And so the focus was really on adolescence and early adulthood. They later revised that and made it more of a lifespan of career choices and said that we have to allow for midlife crises and post-retirement scenarios as well. And so therefore they extended it to a lifespan theory as well. What happened next is that ultimately their theory became the basis for other career development theories. We had, for example, Super, who used exploration as one of his 5 stages. He also used crystallization and specification as 2 of his tasks. Tiedemann and Miller-Tiedemann also included exploration and crystallization. My apologies on that slide. I got a little carried away with the whole idea of exploration, crystallization, and specification. And Tiedemann and Miller-Tiedemann actually only included exploration and crystallization from their influence from Ginzberg in that initial phase that they came up with in their theory on how do I get the job. So that is your short video on Ginzberg, Axelrad, and Herma. If this was helpful for you, you can learn more about us at academiccoachingforworldchangers.com or email us at drpam2020@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching. Make it a great day.